you all see the Shivalingam? Where's the camera? Is it on this side or that side?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so this is one of the oldest forms of the deity. So you have a phallic symbol, the Shivalingam. And if you look, this is called a yoni. It's a woman's vagina, it's a womb. So they're always presented together. Lingam and yoni. Why? Because Shiva is always wedded to his Shakti. And this is why whenever we have the various deities, they are frequently presented as a pair. Krishna, Radha, Rama, Sita. All the various gods have their consort. What does this mean? What does it mean? It means that consciousness, seemingly by its very nature, has the Jagat, the creation, the universe, seemingly appear in it. Like images in a mirror, like the images in a crystal. Meaning, consciousness undergoes no change, yet a phenomenal world appears. One of my favorite definitions of Maya. It is the word that describes how the impossible seems possible. How is it possible that consciousness, which is one without a second, which is the eternal subject, which is kutusta, still, stable like a mountain top, seemingly has a world of name and form appear in it. And yet the scriptures thunder all this. On the one hand is mithya, illusion. And on the other hand, it's all Brahman, it's all consciousness. No one's ever been able to successfully explain the why or the how of it. It just is. But the point is, the result of Maya is the appearance of a phenomenal world wherein there are people. And even though the most present, obvious, immediate experience that everyone has is I am, I shine, I know, I think I'm my body. And we're born into that. So Maharaj is correct when he says it doesn't belong to any one person. It's the nature of being born. This is what the deepest Christian mysticism meant by original sin. It's their word to define Maya. And it always has elements of illusion and delusion. Now, the scriptures say you can overcome Maya, you can cross to the other shore. Very true. Any one of us, through the natural spiritual evolution that we go through, at some point pop off and realize who we are. But the Jagat, the creation, doesn't disappear because you become a realized soul. You will see it differently than other people. Ordinary people will see the world of name and form as solid and real and separate from me. The woman of knowledge sees the same world, but knows Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is verily Brahma. Any thoughts on this? Going on.
Questioner. As an individual, can we go back to the source? Maharaj, not as an individual. The knowledge I am must go back to its own source. Now consciousness has identified with the form. Later, it understands that it is not that form and goes further. In a few cases, it may reach the space, and very often, there it stops. In a very few cases, it reaches its real source, beyond all conditioning.
So understand again, we have a different use of nomenclature. These original talks were done in Marathi. I do not know what words in Marathi he's using for consciousness and awareness and being. Swami Chinmayananda will translate chit as consciousness or awareness. He uses them interchangeably. Nisargadatta Maharaj uses consciousness, I suspect, for something akin to chitta, because he will talk about states of consciousness, whereas Swamiji will use the language states of mind. And there's a difference. Because pure being does not undergo a change, it does not evolve. But the mind stuff does undergo an apparent change. It's one of those seeming occurrences in this world that's like a reflection. So, some people understand themselves as the space of consciousness, the eternal witness. As he's saying, others know that there's being even beyond witnessing. Graphically speaking, so here's the self, here's the little ego that's going, I want to be a realized soul, I want to get enlightened. And it does all this sadhana. And what it thinks is going to happen, it's going to go, now I'm realized I'm one with Brahman. But what actually happens is, and only Brahman is left. It erodes away until there's nothing left. One of my favorite metaphors that you find, the jiva, the individuality, is like a salt doll. So you take a block of salt and you carve a person out of it. And sadhana, our spiritual practice, is like putting water on the salt doll. What happens to the salt doll when you put water on it?
Dissolves.
Yeah. So we come into class this morning and we may think, I am Jim, or I am David, and I did this, and I'm going to do that. But if we just tune up the mind a bit, it's like you put your thumb on it. Listen to the traffic noises for a moment. Who hears what hears? Oh, it's just this vast emptiness. What happened to Jim? What happened to Aditi? What happened to David? What happened to Mark? Gone. Where did they go? Water on the salt dog. Dissolve. Listen carefully. It is like the shift between the dreamer and the waker. When you are the dreamer, you have no awareness of the waker. And to the dreamer, the dream identity seems very real. But then the alarm goes off, and all of a sudden you are the waker. Oh, that was such a vivid dream. Where did the dreamer go? Gone. So also, we're doing our vyavahara, our transactions in the world. And maybe you get identified, meaning I think I'm the jiva, the individuality. I think I'm my body. And then you may stop your mind for a bit and introvert your attention. Notice who you are. And there's that shift between ahankara, I think I'm a person, jiva bhavana, the attitude of feeling like a person, and aham brahmasmi, I know I am Brahman. Though profound, it's very subtle. And our task is to keep abiding as that Brahman. And as this jiva bhavana, as this dream-like appearance, I'm a person, arises, see if you can catch it and let it go. Over and over again until we're sthita prajna, until we're established in it. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
It is difficult to give up that inclination of identifying the body as the self. I am not talking to an individual. I am talking to the consciousness. It is consciousness which must seek its source. Out of that no being state comes the beingness. It comes as quietly as twilight, with just a feel of I am. And then suddenly the space is there. In the space, movement starts with the air, the fire, the water, and the earth. All these 5 elements are you only. Out of your consciousness, all this has happened. There is no individual. There is only you. The total functioning is you. The consciousness is you. You are the consciousness. All the titles of the gods are your names. But by clinging to the body, you hand yourself over to time and death. You are imposing it on yourself. I am the total universe. When I am the total universe, I am in need of nothing because I am everything. But I cramped myself into a small thing, a body. I made myself a fragment and became needful. I need so many things as a body. In the absence of a body, do you and did you exist? Are you and were you there or not? Attain that state which is and was prior to the body. Your true nature is open and free, but you cover it up. You give it various designs.
So one of the things that Maharaj is talking about here is, are these apparent individual bodies and apparent individual minds in fact separate? There's a term that comes out of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition called Mahamudra. Exoterically, it means a particular set of exercises, pranayamas, bandhas, things like that. But the term itself is marvelous. Mudra means a gesture. Maha means great. So if we think of a mudra, if we look at, for example, religious art from all over the world, we find there are archetypical gestures. They're trans-religious. If you, for example, watch a priest celebrate the Mass, his gestures aren't much different than you see in India, in Buddhist or Hindu things, used in a different ritualistic way. What priests, pujaris, etc., will do is they will make the gesture in an effort to invoke energy, Shakti. Actually, it's the other way around. The mudra initially is a response to energy. So, Aditi, you're a trained mental health professional. So, if a client were to come into you and came in and they had their arms crossed for the whole session, what would that communicate to you with body language?
That they are not feeling open and trusting that they're protecting themselves.
And does this really protect yourself? Well, energetically it does. So crossing your arms is a mudra, or one of the ones that we see all the time. If you go to a nightclub, someday we'll be able to do that again, where young people are there and they're on the dance floor, people will dance the mudra of their egos. Like some people are really stiff, like that. All fluidy, Some people, their hips are going like crazy. These are mudras. They're a response to energy. All through life, you find bodies responding to Shakti, to energy. The entire creation is a Mahamudra. Meaning the cars going up and down Grand Avenue, your eyelids opening and closing, stars, supernova, a bird flying, a baby crying. They're not separate. They're form's response to the one dispensation of Shakti. Gross and subtle. It's not just physical movements, but it's thoughts and feelings too. So what Maharaj is indicating is it's all connected. Another way to look at it, if you examine any level of manifestation, be it matter, be it mind, be it pure being, it always resolves itself back into oneness. It's an optical illusion that our bodies are separate. It's just a field of what we would call matter. You can't find a thing called my mind. Where did you get your thoughts and feelings from? Nature, nurture, from either viewpoint. You can't find a thing called my thoughts, my issues, my feelings. Got them from someplace. We three are seniors. Do you have photos of yourself from back in the 70s? Did you have big hair, bell-bottom pants, and stuff like that? This style's, oh my God, we thought it was so hot. I was down in the laundry yesterday, didn't recognize the boy. It's our apartment manager's son, with this big, full, bushy black beard. 25. Oh, and then have facial hair now. Wasn't like that 10 years ago. All changes, all changes. But when a young man makes the choice, oh, I'm going to grow my facial hair out, I'm going to have a big bushy beard. Did he really choose it? Where does fashion or style come from? You can't find a thing called my mind. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. What it is the great gesture of the infinite. Now, another metaphor I like to use is the snowflake. The substance, the material cause of every snowflake is the same, it's water. Just like the material cause of every person is consciousness. But the crystalline structure of every snowflake is unique. So Aditi, you can't be like David, he's taken. Each individuality at the level of the body and the mind and our particular collection of vasanas. We can't be someone else. This is why, in some ways, the spiritual life at the level of what we do in the world is all about authenticity. It's a cosmic coming out process. Give up the notion, I want to be like fill in the blank. They're taken. You can't do that. It's a paradox. It's a paradox. And the way your equipment is right now is perfect. Who do you think made it? God doesn't make junk. Any thoughts on this? All right, moving on.
November 9th, 1980. Questioner. Should the type of dispassion which Maharaj is teaching us be taught to children? Maharaj. No. If that's done, they'll have no ambition to grow further. They must have certain ambitions, certain desires for their proper growth. The one who has fully investigated himself, the one who has come to understand, will never try to interfere in the play of consciousness. There is no creator with a vast intellect as such. All this play is going on spontaneously. There's no intellect behind it, so don't try to impose yours to bring about any change. Leave it alone. Your intellect is a subsequent product of this process.
Subsequent, I think is what
subsequent
it means. Yeah.
Product of this process. So how can your intellect take charge of or even evaluate the whole creation? Investigate yourself. This is the purpose of your being. Spirituality is nothing more than understanding this play of consciousness. Try to find out what this fraud is by seeking its source.
So what he's saying in other words is, who are we to think we know what's best for another person? That's enormous hubris. But Maharaj is sitting there answering questions. What's going on? What we have to do is silence and let go of the insistent, the compulsive, the kind of your demanding little inner, what age do kids gets very demanding? Is it 2 or is it 4?
2.
2, you know. I want ice cream. I don't want to go to bed. You know, that it only gets sophisticated more as we get older. That's the one we need to develop some dispassion towards so it doesn't tyrannize us. If I get disturbed, that's an indication that I'm being tyrannized by that part of the mind. That's where the vairagya is to be done. That's the sannyas. But there's a deeper part of the mind wherein it is connected with the mind of God, with the total mind. In English, we would call it intuition. You have to silence the loud trumpets of raga and dvesha, of attachment and aversion. And the Hebrew scriptures have such beautiful poetry for it. The prophet Isaiah calls it the still small voice. You hear a little voice. That's what we're talking about. It's my sense of knowing, my sense of rightness. One of the most revealing examples of this we find in the Christian scripture. So Jesus goes to the Garden of Gethsemane on the night before the crucifixion, knows what's going to happen, and he prays. And the author of the gospel puts these words in Jesus's mouth. Father, if it be thy will, take this cup from my lips. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. He acknowledges there's a piece of him. Even Jesus, a little bit of Raga Dvesha there. But he had the tools to say, no. I totally surrender. So most of us, for example, when we pray or approach the world, we want to dominate, to fix, to control. And the invitation here is, God's smart. Why not let God do it? I can't, he can, I think I'll let him. Of course, that deep intelligence that's running everything is not separate from the deepest part of your own mind. And I tell you, it will become an unerring guide. But the way to tap into it is to give up all investment in the outcome. And then if you're supposed to answer someone's question, like Maharaj is doing, you will. And the invitation here is practice it. Practice getting still. Practice giving up all investment in the outcome of events. It's not about what you want. See if you can get in touch with that sense of rightness, an unerring current. And it always speaks in the now, in the now, in the now. What am I supposed to do in 5 years? Now, I can only share with you some of my own direct experience. All right, God, what do you want me to do today? I will frame it frequently in a dualistic language. It's not really. The answer is, have you done the dishes? Frequently, it's not cosmic at all. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, the Sufis say it's the science of necessity. What you need to do is what you need to do.
Yeah. It's fundamentally different than the tyranny of that little inner 2-year-old. Many people confuse the two. They think that the intuition is just following whatever pleasures me. And that's tyranny. That's not freedom. Any thoughts? Next one, going on.
Before we continue, are you still logged into the meeting? My laptop ran out of battery, so I just want to make sure.
Can you folks still hear me? The
Yes.
online people?
Yes, Jim.
Yes.
Okay.
November 12th, 1980. Maharaj, the I amness, the manifest Brahman, and Ishvara are all only one. Ponder over this and realize it. This is a rare opportunity, one where all has been explained in great detail, so take full advantage of it. You are the manifest Brahman. I have told you many times what your true state is, but through force of habit, you again descend into body identification. A stage has now arrived at which you must give up this bodily identification. The bodily activities will continue until the body drops off, but you should not identify with them. Questioner.
Let's take a look at that one. So there's a wonderful synchronous moment. In Gita on Sunday nights, we're in the 7th chapter, where Krishna has described his lower prakriti, his lower nature. The 5 elements, Maharaj just talked about them, which comprise seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, meaning our perceptions of phenomena, mind, intellect, and egoism, ahankara. That's a human being. That's Gita's map in the 7th chapter. That's my nature. But then he says, I have a higher nature. So again, we're back to the 2. Yoni is the prakriti, the nature. 5 tanmatras, mind, intellect, egoism. More than that, it's the stuff out of which they're made. Shiva, pure consciousness, which is never touched by any of it. Always the 2 together. You don't identify with one particular form. All the forms are you, or none of the forms are you. Three states of consciousness a human being is capable of. 2 are conducive to liberation, 1 is conducive to bondage. The 2 that are conducive to liberation, I am none of this. It's all illusion. It's all mithya. Second one, I am everything. It's all consciousness. It's all Brahman. They're both really saying the same thing. Those 2 are conducive to liberation. But the mind state, I am an individual stuck here, and those people, places, things, and conditions are separate apart from me and each other. That state of consciousness is conducive to bondage. Going on.
The bodily activities will continue until the body drops off, but you should not identify with them. Questioner. How are we to do this? Maharaj. You can watch the body, so you are not the body. You can watch the breath, so you are not the vital breath. In the same way, you are not the consciousness, but you have to become one with the consciousness. As you stabilize in the consciousness, dispassion for the body and for the expressions through the body occurs spontaneously. It is a natural renunciation, not a deliberate one.
So what he's saying here, frequently we'll say, take on the practice of Sakshi Bhava, which means the attitude of the witness. Well, we lied. You can't really take on witnessing as an attitude. That's like saying, I'm going to take on the attitude of having a human body. What you realize, because you pay attention to it, is that you've always been a witness of the body, mind, and intellect. Did you understand what I said?
Could you repeat that?
Notice, yes. So you don't run around saying, okay, I'm going to practice having a human body.
Mhm.
That already is. If you had some strange idea that you were a goat or a cow or a horse or a pig, you might need to think about it. But it doesn't make you a human body. Likewise, the nature of awareness is that it witnesses phenomena when phenomena appears. You can't really become the witness. You really are noticing that you've always been the witness. There's always subject-object. You don't create witnessing. You just notice what always is. Is that a little clearer?
Yes, Jim, to clarify what you said, it's like you can't be consciousness or take the attitude of the witness because you already are that.
But you have forgotten that you are that, and you think you are what you see.
Hmm.
So some of you younger people, I don't know if you or you ever had friends who were like, say, goth, and you had to have black lipstick and really dark black eyeliner and wear black and chains and have spiky hair, and you just couldn't go out of the house without that. God forbid your parents put you in a puffy sweater. See, there you have someone who thinks they are their drag. That's just not who I am. I'm goth. No, you're not goth. At the level of the body, that's just something you have assumed. Or now, one of the biggest things we have going on in culture is, what are your preferred pronouns? I don't want to use binary pronouns. I prefer they, them. That's fine. But are you a pronoun? Are you your plumbing? We'll have the term dysphoria. But that all refers to the form of the body, not you. Youngsters don't experience this, but us old timers do. So, David and Mark, have you ever had the experience you get out of the shower, and I don't know if you have a full-length mirror in your home, but you are stark naked and you look into the mirror and you go, my God, who is that? What happened? You had that experience? Because if you sit still so nothing hurts, stay away from the mirror, You don't feel any differently than you did at 15 or 25. So you also have dysphoria. That can't be my body. It's old and fat and wrinkled and saggy. That's the body. But you are eternally young. Or better, eternally without age. Young in the sense that you ever knew. The self has no age. Going on.
It does not mean that you should neglect your worldly duties. Carry these out with full zest. Questioner, shouldn't we rediscover the freedom of the little baby from the body? Maharaj, understand the source of child. The child is a product of the sperm of the father and the ovum of the mother. Consciousness is there in the child as it is in the parents. It is always the same consciousness, whether in the child or the adult. There is only one consciousness. You must become one with and stabilize in that consciousness. Then you transcend it. That consciousness is your only capital. Understand it. To what extent do you know yourself? Questioner, I have held the feet of Sadhguru. Beyond that, I don't know anything. Maharaj, you must do that, but you should understand the meaning of the feet of Sadhguru. Understand that as movement begins with the feet, so movement begins from no knowingness to knowingness. When the knowingness occurs, that is Sadhguru movement. Go to the source for that movement where the I amness begins. The effort of the one who has arrested that movement will not go to waste. Holding the feet of the Sadhguru is the borderline between knowingness and no knowingness.
Yes. So it's very interesting when we look at Tripura Rahasya. First third of the book deals with what is the root cause of liberation and its association with the wise. When we come in contact with someone who themselves has traveled the path, then it's easy. It's easy. Not someone who can just pass on indirect knowledge like a scholar. But when we find a real person of wisdom, and we learn to tune up and tune in, they can begin to show us the awakened state of mind. Our job is to get established in my relationship with Swamiji. In the beginning, oh God, it was like psychedelic. And then it was all about the information he was giving me. But then he taught me how to tune into him. And after a while, it was like it was far, far away. This little man in an orange robes going blah, 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 blah. But there was this thunder of silence. This profound emptiness. That's where the real teaching took place. Going on.
November 17th, 1980. Questioner, don't we have to discard all knowledge? Maharaj, you must have a thorough knowledge of this consciousness, and having known everything about the consciousness, you come to the conclusion that it is all unreal, and then it should drop off.
Yes. So the way to be able to let go of what we are not is to thoroughly see it as not self. So one of my favorite texts, Vivekachudamani, the vast majority of the book is discrimination between the self and the not self. The not self here is all mind, all what he is calling consciousness, the body, the prana, the mind, the intellect, ignorance and self, the ego sense, the phenomenal world, gross and subtle. If you can be aware of it, it is not the pure subject. And then what is this not self? Use languages like sa guna Brahman, Brahman with qualities, as opposed to pure subjectivity, nirguna Brahman, Brahman without qualities. But here Maharaj says you have to examine it. You know, I had a student once say, well, does the self have will? Do you think the self has will? Will is a function of the mind. Why did the self create the world? Did it have a desire? Was it lonely? All these ideas are attributing to the self the qualities of the non-self. Going on.
Having listened to these talks, sit and meditate. That which I have heard, is it true or not? Then you will understand that this is also to be discarded. The principle which can pass judgment on whether the world is or is not, that principle antedates the world. That by which everything is known, whether it is or is not, who knows this? When I say Parabrahman, then you say that you understand. Names are merely an instrument for communicating. Do you understand what I am driving at? Questioner, the Jnani knows that this is all an illusion, that there is no path. But if, from within the illusion, one is convinced that there is a path and there's somewhere to go, does it make sense to use techniques to get to that further illusion? Maharaj, illusion, is it a word or not? Questioner, it's a word that relates to a concept. Maharaj, that is also a name only, is it not? Questioner, yes. Maharaj, so what is the illusory word do you want that will satisfy you? November 18th, 1980.
So what Maharaj is saying by that in the end, to use Gaudapada's language, it's Avyapadesha. Upadesha means to talk about something, to teach. Upadesha, Avyapadesha, means in the end it's untalkable. Speech cannot go there. In the Sthita Prajna Purusha section of second chapter of Gita, when a person's mind is not moved by what they have heard, what they have not heard, everything we've said this morning is no different than blah, 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 blah. Don't believe any of it, not even what I just said. He who knows it not. She who knows it not, who has unknown the mind. Going on.
November 18th, 1980. Maharaj, my present outlook is without limitation, total freedom. Ultimately, one must go beyond knowledge, but the knowledge must come, and knowledge can come by constant meditation. By meditating, the knowledge I am gradually settles down and merges with individual knowledge, and thereby becomes totally free, like the sky or space. Those who come here with the idea of getting knowledge, even spiritual knowledge, come here as individuals aspiring to get something. That is the real difficulty. The seeker must disappear. When you know your real nature, the knowledge I am remains, but that knowledge is unlimited. It is not possible for you to acquire knowledge. You are knowledge. You are what you are seeking.
So, how do you know that you are you? The self-evidence of the self is in a different dimension than all other knowledge. The knowledge of the world takes place with what we call the triple factor, triple D. Knower, knowing, thing known. I, Jim, through seeing, know the iPad. But how do you know that you are you? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, or smell, emote, or think I. That you do not doubt your existence. Knowledge of things via the triple factor can be acquired. I do not know how to change the display on the iPad to, what do they call it, tiles? There's some button I can push that'll make it do that. Aditi can, I'm sure, teach me that. Ignorance is removed by knowledge. But knowledge of yourself, the self-evidence of I, is not acquired. It's different than the insight. Oh, I guess that's right. I am just that space of consciousness. That's an insight. That's a thought. That's different than the direct experience. great cosmic joke because everybody already has it. So here Maharaj says, drop all other knowledge. Hold it as fundamentally imagination, not real. Going on.
Your true being exists prior to the arising of any concept. Can you, as an object, understand something that existed prior to the arising of a concept? In the absence of consciousness, is there any proof of the existence of anything? Consciousness itself is mind, is thought, is all phenomena, all manifestation. Apprehending this is being dead to the I am the body while alive. This kind of knowledge comes only in a rare case, and it is very elusive, and it is a very elusive kind of knowledge where no effort is necessary. In fact, effort itself is a hindrance. It is intuitive understanding. Questioner: then should all spiritual disciplines be dropped? Maharaj: at the highest level, this is so. At the earlier levels, you have to do your homework. Those who are able intuitively to grasp this lose their interest in worldly affairs. Having lost it, what will they get? Whatever they have lost, they will have lost as an ordinary person, but what they get in return will be fit for a king. Those who have comprehended and who have reached a certain stage will not ask for anything, but everything will come to them spontaneously. There will be no wish for it. Nevertheless, it will be there. This does not happen for an individual. It happens for the universal manifestation, for the one who has become one with his true nature. For the Jnani, only witnessing is taking place. November 20th, 1980.
Okay, I think now is a good place to stop. Are we at a place where you could mark it?
Mhm.
All right, any thoughts before we end? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all.
Thank you.